Oh, this is like terrible. It's like have you seen that German show like Adam Meets Eve, and it's like they're naked on an island or something? This sort of means, you're now not the Adam. Like you're out the door. Okay. Feedback number 3. Humour is good, but there's nothing funny about Catholics. Noted. Noted. Feedback number 4. Chris talks a little bit too much about himself. I like this as an idea, but it's not entirely true. Because that's a little bit like saying, the Batman talks about himself or something. Because all I do is I really just make up myself as I go. In a way, it's not really me talking about me, but it's me constructing me in a new and more interesting way than I really am. So it's not really me I'm talking about. Okay, and feedback number 5. Oh, Chris knows his stuff, but maybe he knows it too well. And so I've decided this time, through this lecture series, to know my stuff a little bit less well. I'm going to, what I decided to do was to work through a whole set of ideas that I want to chart, and I want you to chart, that are sort of at a very particular edge of architecture, of architectural theory, of philosophy. And it's an edge that we'll be negotiating together a little bit. Okay. That being said, what's sort of happening here is I'm thinking and thinking hard and working my way every week through a whole set of ideas and notions, and bringing to them here on a Wednesday afternoon, in a very fresh sort of manner. So I apologise when it's too fresh or too raw. And if anyone needs to or wants to correct me on any points, please do. Or please let me know where you're uncomfortable, or or where it's getting too exciting for you or something. Okay. You don't have to raise an arm. You can just raise. You can just rise. Okay. All right. The course. Today's lecture is going to be very a little bit banal, a little bit boring. I've got to run through what it is we're going to be doing across the semester, talk about what it is you're going to be doing and how you're going to be fixating, and then get into just a very short, very brief sort of example of a way of entering this sort of logic. Okay. And so, as it says in the sort of document, in Schizoanalytic Cartographies of '89, the psychoanalyst Felix Guattari suggests that the elements of schizoanalysis are, quote, like crystals of singularization, points of bifurcation outside of dominant coordinates, on the basis of which mutant universes of reference can spring up. The aim of this course is to give you an opportunity to engage with architecture's thoughts and selves in alternate ways, to experiment and explore. And that's what we'll be doing. And we'll do it in the dark. It's always much better that way, anyway, or better for me. Okay, or better for you, I'm sure. All right. And we'll get back to this sort of point. Okay. The aims of the course, the objective of the course is actually called Modern Architectural Theory, which is just because it's very difficult to change course titles at this university without going through a couple of years of bureaucratic rigmarole in a way. So it's a slightly dated sort of title, but it's designed to equip you with critical key understandings of Western architectural theories from the Enlightenment to the present. Emphasis is on those theories with contemporary traction, and by that I mean they have a very particular contemporary life in a way. I'm not going to tell you about Plato and Platonic forms and their value, largely because they have so little value today in a way. The interest and the areas in which I'll sort of fixate are those that have a very particular and edgy type of currency at the moment that's in architecture, but also in philosophy and cultural studies more broadly, and art more broadly. What I'll tend to do, I'll get back as far as about Marxism. So we'll touch and deal with Marx and Marxism. We'll go back even a little bit further to Darwinism, okay, and evolutionary biology in some sense, but particular angles to do with that. We'll look at psychoanalysis. Okay, we'll follow it through to phenomenology and structuralism. Okay, so phenomenology, and see, as you know, I mean, if you know this all too well as well, just nod, and so I'll back away and just, or not do the explanation, or I'll explain it in more careful terms, all right? So what, from phenomenology, dealing with the body and one's embodiment, okay, of the world. I embody the world embodies me. You all sort of know the discourse and the rhetoric. Okay, I understand the world through my body, okay? You know that? I don't mean through mine, I mean through yours, through your own, okay? And structuralism, dealing primarily with text, okay, and notions that come out of language and linguistics, okay? And post-structuralism that rolls effectively structuralism and phenomenology together in sort of saying actually both are incredibly vital. You know, the languages with which we operate and with which we think, and the way in which we speak those languages, or the languages roll over my tongue. Okay, both important. Okay, I think that's it. I mentioned psychoanalysis as well, but okay. And that'll get us to this very particular moment where a whole lot of these theories and formulations are sort of banging together and trying to roll out a very particular discourse about what we are, how we operate, what the world is, you know, how we think the world. Okay. And that's what's meant by contemporary traction. And what it says there is also that emphasis will be placed on very particular usages and incarnations and emergences of these theories. Organised predominantly as a conceptual survey, there's 1,000 ways of working through some of this material, or all of this material. And all I can do over the course of one semester is effectively give you something like I don't know how to think about it, but it's a little bit like, you know, the red light district in Amsterdam, where you walk past all those windows, in a way, and you get a sense of what's going on in each sort of, and so or the non-red light district of Amsterdam, and you walk past all those shops, and you get a sense of all that's sort of going on in all those windows and all that possibility. Okay, you sort of get a little bit of a taste for it, in a way, but you don't always indulge, okay, or indulge deeply, or deeply enough. So that's what we're going to do, is sort of like making our way sort of down that very particular row of streets along that bank, that canal. I don't know it personally, I'm just imagining what this is like. Google Earth, I Google Earthed it, you know, like you know, with a sense of what's possible within there. Okay. That being said, there will be particular moments of indulgence where you need to indulge, like indulge big time. And with your own work and what I'm asking you to do in terms of assessment for this course, it's going to involve you getting fairly heavily into something very particular. Okay. So you have to pick your fetish, you know, pick it what it is where you want to go. Okay. And there'll be readings, lectures, tutorials, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. Okay. Learning outcomes. So I need to take you through these. I apologise for that. This is also what you'll tend to be assessed on. Okay, at the end. So keep it in mind. So applying a level of information literacy, it's going to be absolutely necessary. You're doing the master's, and any master's course involves a serious research component, and that serious research component is undertaken by you, not me. Okay, and what that means is that you need to start really managing information and spending time thinking and reading every week of the course. Okay. I'd be setting aside at least, I don't know, at least 5 bath times of the week to think, and think carefully about the world. okay, and probably at least 5 or 6 hours a week of reading, like not in the bath, but otherwise, okay, investigating things, okay. It'll take a lot of time to develop up a very particular sensibility and for yourselves, okay. So it's an ongoing thing, it's a lifelong thing, but by the end of the semester, you know, like you'll need to be producing something that bears all the marks of a decent amount of reading and a decent amount of bathing. Okay. 2, consider the challenge and elucidate complex ideas in clear and concise manners. Okay. Only when you know you're all going to be fixating on very particular sets of ideas, okay, that will be just yours to fixate upon. It's not necessarily going to be shared. And in order to do so, in order to articulate those ideas, which are often quite complex and have complex contexts, there's a couple of things you're going to need. And one is to have read a shitload, to be really on top of the material in order that you can then speak it in fairly clear ways and come to very particular personal senses of what that means and how that might operate. Okay, not just regurgitating the verbiage of, you know, philosopher X or philosopher Y, okay, but knowing exactly what it is the concept means and how it seems to operate. It'll take a lot of indulgence on your part. You'll have to spend a lot of time sort of thinking it through, dealing with it. The other thing is, in order to get the context and understand something of the context, it's intended that you attend every lecture and almost every tutorial, okay? And the reason is we need to, and you need to build a very particular context or have a sense of the broader context into which your ideas sit, okay? It's always very obvious at the end of the semester when essays are written, when work comes in, where there's no understanding of the broader context into which that theory or logic, you know, like is situated. Okay. The tutorials and hearing other people speak about what it is they're investigating and how they're investigating it and those individual contexts of those concepts, and the lectures will help you to situate your own work. Okay. Ability to inform action through knowledge of architectural design theory with particular emphasis on specific cultural and philosophical contexts in which the theories arose and how they're represented in the domain of architecture. Okay. I suffer from a slight problem, and that is an architectural background and architectural training, and what that training and background tends to mean is that when I read philosophy and psychoanalysis or whatever it is, I'm always putting it in a certain architectural context and understanding it spatially, materially, and in ways that architects tend to. Okay. You will definitely need to sort of develop a fairly strong sense of what the architectural value of a whole set of these notions is or might be. I can promise you that there's not a concept that you can come across that has no spatial material, no architectural value or characteristic, okay? But developing up a way of talking about that and exploring that will take a little bit of time. And the fourth thing, an ability to think abstractly, conceptually, and critically about architecture and through different architectural and urban ideas, demonstrating principles that are of particular central theories with an understanding of relevant terms and references. Okay. Now, what this tends to imply is that not only that you can grab an idea in a way, but that you'll grab it critically and rigorously. Okay, these ideas are put out into the world in very particular frames with very particular contexts, and it's up to you to be careful and critical about those ideas. Okay, not just to take them as given, not to use them lightly in a way, because none of them will be particularly light. It's also incumbent upon you at this point in time in the Masters. How many of you have just started the Masters or this year? And how many of you, this is the second year, your second year? Okay, so about half. How many of you aren't involved in the course at all?